In this video, we're going to see how to draw deformed shapes for beams given some certain specified end deflections. I'm just going to be going through some examples for you. In all of the rows, I have in dashed lines the original shape and location of the beam. Here, I'm going to impose a rotation at the right node. Here, I'm going to move the right node upward. A rotation at the left node. I'm going to move the left node upward. In this row, I'm going to look at a rotation on one node. I'm going to keep the other node in place but allow it to rotate. Here I'm going to look at a displacement at the node and allow the other one to rotate. And at the end, we'll look at an example with just a general shape. Let's get started here on the first row. So I'm going to use this Bendy Ruler so that we can start thinking about physically about how these deformations work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this left end firmly with my fingers, and I'm going to take the right end and I'm going to rotate it. And you can see that if I maintain the slope at the left end, that causes a curvature at that left end. Contrast this to if I allow that end to rotate. So here I'm not applying a moment at the left end. That end's allowed to rotate, but it doesn't generate a curvature at that end. Again, if I add that moment in, it generates a curvature at that left end. Similarly, if I look at the deformation on the right-hand figure, I'm going to move that right node upward. Similarly, I need to apply a moment at the left end. If I let that moment go, I wouldn't generate a curvature at the left end, but because I apply a moment, I generate a curvature at that end. Let's take a look at how we would sketch this. And the process here, starting at the left-hand side, is to indicate what the slope is coming into the node. So that node rotated counterclockwise, and the piece that was originally horizontal has moved in that direction. Over on the left-hand side, I have a horizontal slope that remains horizontal. And I'm just going to draw a smooth curve matching that shape. And once I have a curve, I'll sketch it in a little bit more permanently. I went a little bit offline here. I would need to correct that. Similarly, on the right-hand side, this piece was originally flat, and I'm not rotating the node, so it remains flat. The slope over here remains flat, and I need to sketch in a smooth curve between these 2 points. As before, I'll darken the curve, and that's my deformed shape. Continuing onward, I'm not going to use the Bendy Ruler here because it's pretty much the same, but we'll draw these deformed shapes. I keep track of the slope on the left-hand side. You notice that I've rotated the node counterclockwise, so this little piece goes up in the counterclockwise direction. The slope over here remains flat, and I also need to sketch in a nice smooth curve that follows these pieces of information, the nodal displacements and the nodal rotations. In the other diagram, I'll maintain the flat slopes, and similarly I'll sketch in the shape and then darken it a little bit more. These are the 4 basic ways that the nodes can move at the end of beams. In the next case, I'm going to apply the same nodal rotation, the same nodal displacement, but allow the other end to rotate. Let's look at that with the Bendy Ruler. On the case on the right-hand side, I'm going to rotate the right-hand node. And we'll notice how the left-hand side eventually becomes straight at the very end. It doesn't have this curvature that we had before. It's straight. Similarly, if I move one of the nodes upward, the other side is straight. It doesn't have this curvature that it had before. We'll follow the same procedure. Here I'm going to draw the slope, but you'll notice that over here on the node that's free to rotate, I don't draw the slope because I don't know it. I'm simply going to follow this piece of information here and just come in with a relatively straight line. You know, there's no moment on the left-hand side. That means that there's no curvature. That left end is going to be free. Similarly over here, I'll keep the same slope as before, but I'm not specifying a slope over here. I'm just going to come in smoothly in such a way that I have a straight, no curvature at the end there. Now in this last case, well, I'll follow the same procedure, but now putting pieces together. I'm now rotating this right-hand node clockwise. So a piece that was originally horizontal is going to move clockwise, and the slope will then be up here. On the left-hand side, I've specified what the displacement is, but I'm not going to specify a slope because it's free to rotate. And then, again, I need to sketch in a fairly smooth curve that comes in towards the end with no curvature. I'll darken this line. And there we go. These are some examples of deformed shapes of beams with known nodal rotations or known nodal displacements.